Hello everyone, welcome to Sharmit. In this session, we are going to talk about another very interesting topic related to medical coding anatomy, where we will discuss about ear. So we all know that one of the sense organ is the ear, which is very important for human being, right? So in this session, we will discuss the anatomy of ear, what is ear, how it is used, and what are the parts of ear. Okay, so these all things we are going to discuss in this particular session. But before we proceed further with it, I would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released session first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow it sequentially, then it would be much more easier for you to understand the ongoing topic, because for time being we are just mainly focusing on anatomy of ear. But prior to that, we have already covered the eye part, we have already covered the prefixes, suffixes related to ear and eye, right? So these all things you can cover, and then you can continue from here. And for that, you can also refer the Sharmit digital course book, which is freely available in the description box. There you will find thousands of sessions, which is available in both Hindi as well as English language. So without any language barrier, you can easily consume the content. And in case if you have any queries or questions related to that, just feel free to reach out to me through comment section. I would be more than happy to answer all your questions. Okay. Alright, so let's see what is ear and what is the anatomy of the ear. So basically you can divide the ear into three main region, with each has its own different role. Okay, so you can see I have already provided you the notes, so let's go through this note and see what we have. Okay, so as I mentioned, like the ear is divided into three main regions, each with a different role: the outer external ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. Okay, so now the outer ear and the middle ear work together to conduct or carry sound waves inward. Okay, so that means outer ear and inner ear, they work together, and they are the part which are basically carrying the sound waves inward. Okay, then the ear is where those sound waves are finally converted into a form that brain can understand. Okay, so after that, like once that sound wave reach to the internal ear, it basically convert those sound waves into the brain, into the signal that brain can understand. Okay, but also it is playing a vital role in the balance. Okay, so just remember this thing, this is not only for hearing, this is also for the balancing. Clear? Now one by one we will discuss all these three parts in detail, like what is outer ear, what is middle ear, and what is internal ear, along with their subpart. Okay, so outer ear, this is basically the visible portion of the ear that is not contained within the head. Okay, it is not contained within the head, it's a outer portion. Okay, outer portion that we can see. So first thing is auricle pinna, which is the visible cartilage based flap of the ear that we see on the side of the head. And so we can see the ear, right? So that flap portion, its shape basically help to collect the sound waves and determine the direction where they are coming from. Okay, so basically the shape of ear is mainly to help to collect the audio or collect the sounds from the environment, and then it simply process it further. Okay, so it is known as auricular pinna. Then we have external auditory canal, which is a tube that leads from the auricle inward to the middle ear. Okay, and it is lined with the tiny hairs called cilia that helps guide sound waves further into the ear. Okay, then we have tympanic membrane, which is also known as eardrum, which is nothing but a thin, tightly stretched membrane that marks the boundary between external ear and the middle ear. Okay, so this is the main portion which is vibrated when the sound wave strikes to it, and that process is the actual beginning of the sound conduction process. Clear? After that we have cerumen, which is nothing but a ear wax. So this is mainly a combination of wax and secretion from the fat glands in the ear canal, and it is mainly to help and protect the ear from infection by trapping the dust and microorganism. Okay, so its main role is to trap those dust and unnecessary microorganism and make sure that it is not entering the ear. So this is the simplest part for the outer ear. Now we will talk about the middle ear, which is a small air-filled space containing 3 tiny bones known as auditory ossiculus. Okay, so now what are these? So we know that it has tiny bones. Okay, now first is Malleus, which is a shape like a hammer, small hammer, and this bone is directly connected to the tympanic membrane, and is the first bone to receive, transmit and sound vibration. Okay, so this is the first bone that actually receives and transmit the sound vibration. Then we have Incus, which is nothing but a shape like an anvil, and this bone sits between the Malleus and Stapes and processes the sound vibration from Malleus onward. Clear? Then we have Stapes, which is shaped like a tiny stirrup, and this is the smallest bone in the body, and it receives vibration from the incus and transmit them into the inner ear through the oval window. Okay, after that we have another thing, that is Eustachian tube, which is also known as the auditory tube, and it is mainly a tube that connects the middle ear to the back of the throat, that is pharynx. So sometime in an interview they might ask you which part or which tube connects the middle ear to the back of the throat. So you can simply answer that it's a Eustachian tube or it's a auditory tube. And the main role of this tube is to equalize the air pressure on the both sides of the eardrum, and which is why like ears sometimes pop out during the altitude change. So when ear pops because of altitude change, this part is mainly the responsible for it. Okay, then the another term is we have is oval window. So it's nothing but a small membrane covered opening that separates the middle ear from the inner ear. The base of Stapes fits into the window and process vibration onward into the fluid-filled inner ear. Clear? And then we have the inner ear, which is the main portion where actually the sound waves are transmitted into signals that a brain can understand, and then we perceive it as a hearing or sound. Okay, so inner ear is basically the region where sound vibration are finally converted, as I mentioned, into nerve signals. It is also responsible for balance. So always remember this thing. Okay, don't forget that it maintains the balance. Now its types and not types, but the parts that are processed here. So first is vestibule, the central chamber of the ear, located between the cochlea and the semicircular canals, and it basically houses the article and seculae, two small fluid-filled sacs that help the body sense head position and maintain the balance. Clear? Now what is cochlea? Cochlea is a bone spiral snail-shaped structure that contains two special fluid, endolymph and perilymph. Now what is endolymph and perilymph? It's nothing but a fluid that helps to move the response into side wave vibration to help and transmit further within the ear. So it is basically converting those sound wave, it is transmitting it. Okay, and then comes the main part, that is organ of the corti, a specialized structure located inside cochlea that is considered a true organ of hearing, because it is the place where the sound wave vibration are actually converted into nerve impulses that can be understood by the brain. Okay, and then we have semicircular canals, which is nothing but a three curved bony fluid filled loops located behind the vestibule, and movement of fluid within these canals are the head moves helps the brain maintain a sense of balance. So it is responsible for the balancing. Clear? Now we know all these three parts, major three regions or part of the ear. Now we'll talk about the process of hearing, because now we know the parts. So let's see how the things work. So here you can see the sound wave firstly travel into the outer ear and pass down the external auditory canal toward the eardrum. Okay, when these sound waves reach the tympanic membrane or eardrum, they cause it to vibrate back and forth. Okay, After that, these vibrations are then passed along the chain of 3 tiny bones in the middle ear, moving in sequence from Malleus to the Incus and to the Stapes. Then the Stapes presses against the oval window, transmitting the vibration into fluid-filled cochlea of the inner ear. Then after that, within the cochlea, the organ of corti, okay, very important, the organ of corti detects these vibrations and convert them into electrical nerve impulses. These impulses then travel along the auditory nerve fibers until they reach cerebral cortex of the brain, and finally the brain interprets these nerve impulses, allowing us to consciously perceive sound as a hearing. Okay, so this is the overall process. Now if someone asks you what is the simple memory chain for auditory pathway, so you can say that firstly pinna leads to the external auditory canal, then tympanic membrane, then Malleus, then Incus, then Stapes, then oval window, the cochlea, which is organ of the corti, then we have auditory nerve fibers, and then finally cerebral cortex. Clear? So this is how thing works. This is how we hear. Now for today, there is one special question for all of you, and it's a bit tricky question, but I'm sure like some of you already know the answer. So the question is, what is the blind spot of the eye? Okay, so this thing we already discussed when we talked about the anatomy of eye. So just remember, just try to recall that part and share your expertise in the comment section so that others can take a reference from it. Also, when you are sharing the comment in comment section, it gives me the notification that you guys are referring these sessions, and on the basis of that only I will release more sessions. So the more the number of comments, more the session you will see in the playlist. Okay, so yeah, that's all for today. See you in the next session with new topics. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.